Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. So happy to be here with you to discuss Nashville Soccer Club. I, of course, am here with Valer Shabila, Clay Trainum, and look, you might hear a little bit more pep in my step today. You might hear a little bit more pep in Valer and Clay's step. Maybe, I don't know. I might be talking for them. But we feel like we have a job and obligation to do to bring positivity to Nashville soccer fandom. And that's exactly what we are going to do. Right, team?
I mean, I feel like that's usually my job. I don't know if it's usually your job, Steven, but...
No, it's definitely...
I've never applied. I never applied. I will never apply to such job. That seems like...
I think the pep in our step is from Valer's burgeoning rap career that will not be mentioned any further on this episode.
That's true. Rap career. There's also this thing, and I'm going to go right into my weekend, because my weekend was highlighted by one tweet. A tweet from a journalist that I respect the most, that the only person I've ever fangirled around. That's David Ornstein. So shout out David Ornstein. And David Ornstein talked about how Arsenal are connected to Vinny Jr. and that shaped my entire weekend. That has literally thrown everything. Everything I've ever thought about changed now. Now we're probably not going to sign Vinny Jr. and chances of that happening is less than 10%, probably. But man, I'm a fan. I gotta hope.
If you think Arsenal signing Vinny Jr. will make you annoying, let me tell you. If Everton sign Alistair Johnston, I will be incredibly annoying to everyone about it.
As you should. As you should.
And I don't think that one's happening either, but at least I think it has a better chance of happening.
I was going to say one of those is not like the other. But no, man, I am a little excited. I am mainly excited because I'm looking forward to the end of my week where I go see my friend Steven Robinson in D.C., get to cover the Nashville game there, get to hang out with some cool friends, and get to probably see Steven's biggest dog of all time, because Steven has a very big dog.
It's true. It's
this
true.
Will be Valer's first time in D.C. since January 6th, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's been a while since Valer has been there.
That's not true. I've been there more recently. I went to the World Cup draw in December. I have to say this on the record and for the record. I was there in December for the World Cup draw.
Since January 6th.
Yeah, he has been there since January 6th.
I was never in D.C. in January any day. I repeat, never in my life have I been to D.C. in January.
Oh, Clay, how was your weekend, buddy?
It was less cool. I had to buy a new oven. So
nice.
Did you say shovel or oven?
Oven. Shovel.
Oven. Third straight week with an unexpected $1,000 bill. So shout out to this summer. It's been great. But other than that, it was all right. That one didn't annoy me near as much as the soccer game on Saturday night. But generally speaking, it was an all right weekend other than that. And hey, once I get a new oven, that means I can cook more fun stuff. And as you guys already know, I do like to cook. And I'm a pretty all right cook, I feel like. So I'll have fun.
I have a question about the oven. Regardless of its brand, please don't mention it. Is it one of those that has like a touch screen type of thing? I've been seeing those.
No, I work for the state.
Right.
So it has a couple of cool features that my old oven didn't have, but
clock.
It beeped at him.
It has a clock.
Well, this is the type of oven that may sing a song when it beeps, so I do not believe I will let it beep.
Wow, man, it's a good song depending on which one it is, though.
Wait, gas or electric?
Electric.
Yeah, same here. Anyway. You guys want to hear more about ovens? Check out our other podcast.
Let's check out our other podcast, Pharmaceutical Ovens. All right. Anyways, my weekend was pretty good.
Pharmaceutical ovens. Now that's a career you don't want to be into.
So I think this was about a year ago, and you guys might have remembered this, but I talked about it because I did it over the weekend, and I went on a little bit of a Valered out about this. Remember, I went to a Nationals game last year, and after that, I saw Flo Rida and went on a whole rant about how awful that was.
Mm-hmm.
ladies and gentlemen, may I also give you Jason Derulo was probably way worse.
You didn't say Jason Derulo the correct way.
Yeah. Can you say it the right way? It's a pronunciation thing.
Yeah.
Jason Derulo.
Oh, no, I know who you're talking about. I didn't know who you were
that
talking
guy.
about.
Yeah, he wasn't good.
Yeah.
No, it was terrible. It
You
was
only
just
go to Nats games when there's a concert there.
yes, that is correct.
Have I talked about seeing the Whip Nene guy?
So
You saw that guy live. Hold on.
No, I can't remember his name. What was his name?
Salento. He's in jail.
Salento. So yeah, he's in jail
for killing
somebody. Although the song, I mean, reasonable people may disagree, but jailable offense. Now, when I was working for the Gwinnett Braves, which are now the Gwinnett Stripers, Salento was driving. He was being driven to go perform at the G Braves game, and he said, "When did the Braves move to Gwinnett?" Oh. And I was like, "Oh, buddy." You are not performing at the Atlanta Braves game.
No.
That is tough break.
No.
Break.
It's a tough break, buddy. But yeah, I only go to Nats games when there's a concert because I'm not really going to go watch baseball. And it's like getting a free concert. So, and is it always normally bad? Sure. But, I'm in walking distance to Nats Stadium. So it makes it easy to just be like, hey, I'm going to go do that.
Doc Steven Robinson right here.
But other than that, quiet weekend. Obviously, quiet on all fronts, including soccer. So shout out Nashville for that. Just that. Look, it is. I don't know what are we feeling right now? What just overall? It's been a weird week, right? Technically 6 points in 3 matches, so that's still technically there. But there was definitely some clouds even over the wins, and I would even in the loss we didn't look great, but it was still only by 1. How do you make this what is the best way to kind of turn this for the fan base currently?
I mean, I think the we're going to talk about the game in specifics, all these games, concerns, things like that. So this isn't papering over those. Those are real, and those are things that we'll talk about. But generally speaking, you're coming out of an extended break, and I think you're looking at a team that looks like they haven't played in a while. You're looking at a team that's not healthy for reasons, but they're not healthy. So you're looking at a team of a bunch of parts that haven't played together, not playing particularly well, getting 2 wins at home and a loss away from home, and being 2 points clear of everyone for the Supporters Shield at the halfway mark of the season in MLS after playing a bunch of matches. And when you factor in Champions Cup and all that, and taken in totality, that's a pretty good thing. And it's hard to not take into account the way that Nashville SC was playing right before the break. But it's also hard to not look at that and think that has an expiration date, knowing the way they were playing is unsustainable. I mean, that's what we've kind of been talking about on this show, is that the way that Nashville SC was putting away points was unsustainable. At some point, there's going to be peaks and valleys, and that's what happens, especially in this league. It's very hard to win on the road in MLS. It's statistically very difficult. You're going to lose some games, and Nashville's lost 2 games this year. It happens. The performances aren't great, and those are concerns, and we'll talk about those. But generally speaking, my vibe check is at some point you were going to see a downturn in form, and my bet is that this form is temporary, and we start to see the team that we did see here in the next few weeks.
And ultimately, what it comes down to is the sample size, right? I mean, we have 3 games of meh performances that ended in 6 points out of 9, but they were meh performances. And then we have, 14 games beforehand of pretty good performances to great performances, depending on the game you look at, except that one Chicago game they lost. So if you were to take anything away, you can't really take away from the 3 games and just say, well, now Nashville's bad all of a sudden, right? Like that's just, I don't know. I don't view sports like that. Like that's not how it works.
Right.
So but really, like I also understand fans' frustration because they were sold this, for lack of a better word, product that was exciting and fun, and all of a sudden you come back from an exciting and fun tournament, and all you see is, not fun or exciting at all. So I understand where the frustration comes from, and I'm not like discouraging anybody from voicing their opinion about the issues and what they're seeing. I will say I've seen some like really what is the word? Like the earth, the sky's falling, sort of opinions on Nashville SC already, and I can't also get behind that either. Like it just doesn't seem appropriate because Nashville are in the supporter shield leader at the moment, and I again, like I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset or anything like that. You should, because your team was much better, and then all of a sudden they're playing like this. But There's a level of like discourse that I think is just reached a level where I just can't agree with.
Right. It's got to be interesting for us that have been a part of and fans of this team for a very long time. Oh no, you go from first place to losing a couple matches, one match. Sorry, you lost one match after the World Cup break. Do you know what we went through in so many of these instances where it was just like, yes, we can't wait for this team to finally come back and be ready, and then we draw, a last place, team. Like that's what we had to deal with.
Well, I think it's just interesting on how much finishing like papers over your understanding of a match, right? So like Orlando goes and beats San Jose 4-0, right?
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh man, like they just beat the brakes off San Jose. And they did. But the XG in that San Jose match and the XG in the Nashville match were not remarkably different. For a Nashville match that won 1-0, and felt like they weren't very good and needed a pretty soft penalty to win, and a match where San Jose won 4-0. So if Nashville wins that match 2 or 3-0 or does what San Jose does, and then you have this result after it, everyone feels completely different coming off of a loss to Orlando. And all that's really different there is an extra goal or two, but the performance is essentially the same. Your perception changes because of the finishing. You know what I mean? And I'm oversimplifying. I'm oversimplifying. Let me caveat that. I'm oversimplifying. But, like, that's the thing that kind of underlies me, because the second game wasn't that bad of a performance. Like, it really wasn't. It was a much better performance than the Atlanta game.
Right. Well, so, like, Orlando, it is what it is. But I've seen some of these Shield teams over the years go lose 4-0, and you're just sitting there going, like, what was that? And, like, none of these have been these types of games. And that's the thing that really kind of is throwing me off. Like, these are just also where the peaks and valleys, and that mixes with all the peaks and valleys that you were coming into. Because, I mean, before the World Cup break, we're talking about LAFC. What the heck is going on with Sun? What are they even doing? And now you go after the World Cup break, and this is where they're at. Where they're scoring goals like crazy. Where their peaks and valleys is just different than where we're at the current moment, right? Like, it'll be, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think Valera's right. It's okay to be upset. Not great performances all day around, like all the way around. But is it necessary? Is it something that you think can't be fixed, or necessarily something that you don't think that we are going to come back from? Is it something that you think there is a specific hole in this team where it's just like, look, this has been here for the entire first half. Now we're here at the second half, and this hole is being, opened up?
Well, I mean, we're going to get into the specifics in the second segment, but I mean, my gut is that we're going to get 2-3 weeks from now, or the other side of the League's Cup at least, and we probably aren't really going to think about some of these matches anymore. Right. Because that kind of is what happens. You know what I mean? Like, that, these are the things that, like, Nashville had a not great performance against DC earlier this season. Mm-hmm. And, found a way to get a point out of that game where they played terrible for a good chunk of it. And people probably forgot about it until I just now brought it up. Like, these are things that just happen over the course of the season. You kind of move on. It's MLS. These results happen.
Valera, any comment? Awesome,
He
buddy.
shook his head.
Thank you very much for really bringing a lot to this audio.
Now, if I don't jump on, I don't need an invite from you. It's been 7 years we're doing this podcast, Steven.
But I'm still going to ask you to call you out just because it's fun to be able to do, and just to show your contribution. Speaking of players, though, we do finally have another player announcement that is official, right, Valera?
Say his name.
Is it Famara Kamara?
Yes. Greatest name in MLS. I hope that's how it's pronounced. I just know the first press
whatever way
conference.
it's pronounced is great. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, is it the greatest name in MLS?
Has to be, bro. Top three, if anything. Just the fact that it rhymes. He's a center mid, as we've talked about. I feel like we've mentioned him every episode for the last 3 episodes. So go back and listen to those if you want to learn more about him. I will say, obviously, there's a visa thing going on, just like Ilya Assad. So we'll see how that goes with him. It's different for each player. It's different for each situation. So his might come earlier. Who knows? At the same time, with the injuries in midfield for Yazbek, there's a chance Nashville probably will put him on the pitch a little earlier than they anticipated. But who knows? I mean, that's not a foregone conclusion or anything. But keep in mind, he's a young player. You might not see him in NSC colors for a while, but Leagues Cup's coming. Patrick Hasback's still injured, so Eddie Texas coming back from injury now. So that might be a really good opportunity for a new player to, get those minutes and get acclimated with the team.
Awesome, V. Thank you very much for that contribution. I really appreciate it. We got a lot of soccer to talk about, as we're going to talk about all of the matches that happened last week, as well as interesting stuff that happened in Major League Soccer. And we're going to talk about all of that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. We are back here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Something that I got to make sure I talk about in my advertisements. We are also part of the 440 Sports Network, so make sure you go check out what is going on there. Also, make sure you do check out 615soccer.com. Spell it out in the browser. If you want to be a part of the conversations going on at the current moment in terms of Nashville Soccer Club, if you want to make sure that you are voicing your opinions to the masses, if you want to be positive, if you want to be a positive force like me, Valera, and Clay, you can do that in the 615 Soccer Discord. Or you could just go the complete opposite way and be negative. But you can also be positive. There's a lot of good conversation, discourse going on there. Anything when it comes to news, it's all going to be there. And if you just want to do a mailbag question, if you want us to answer something on air, you can even go on there and write something out. So 615soccer.com, check it out.
That was good. Also, go to pharmasoccer.com if you want to buy some merch, because we got some merch. So there's that. And also give us 5-star reviews and tell your friends about this. If you have new friends who are getting into soccer, this will be a good spot for them to start. Probably not, but we'll try it out. We'll see what happens, and tell them to give us 5-star reviews. Even if they don't actually, no, tell them to listen. That feels weird if they don't listen. So yeah, tell them to listen and give us 5-star reviews. There you go.
I always feel like I don't do a good job when it comes to doing that, because normally Valera adds like another minute of 615 Soccer advertisement. So the fact that he didn't do that this time, I feel like I did a great job, actually, So thank you, Valera.
I spent the last 3 minutes trying to find better names than Famara Kamara in the MLSPA salary database.
I was wondering where you I was like, your head was like focused a little bit, and I was going to do that, but I knew that I would lose all focus.
I mean, it's up there. I mean, Fafa Pico deserves a shout. Let's be honest.
It's true.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I was on FODMOB and I saw he got subbed out, and I saw his actual name. I'm like, wait, no, there's no way that is his. It was, I forgot specifically what it was, but I'm like, oh my God, that's interesting. But anyways, We have some Nashville soccer to talk about. Are we going to do it reluctantly? Sure. But we do have Nashville soccer to talk about. There's 2 matches that did happen over but we're going to talk about all 3 because all 3 of them kind of align. Obviously, we are going to be talking about Montreal and beating Montreal 1-0 of the Sam Surge penalty, and then, of course, losing to Orlando 1-0 in Orlando after a rain and lightning delay in Orlando. So Clay kind of had the idea of kind of pitching all 3 of these matches together that we talk about. And I think it's a good idea just because they all had a similar outcome, right, Clay?
Well, I think people's frustrations of all 3 are kind of tied to the same thing, which is that Nashville doesn't look like the team that we remember Nashville being before the World Cup break. And as we mentioned in the first segment, there are a number of reasons why I think that that's the case. But I think people's frustrations with each successive match are built upon the previous match. So, the frustration from the Montreal result is built on how bad the Atlanta performance was, even though the Montreal performance was remarkably better in terms of, the actual performance. And then the frustration from the result in Orlando, which in, a second game in a 2-game week on its own probably wouldn't stand out, but now does stand out from the previous 2 performances. I think that you kind of have to take them all together. And so I think the easiest way to talk about it, because they're all kind of linked in people's heads, is to just kind of talk about it as a group. And because we're positive, I think we should talk about kind of what is working. Because I think a lot of people are going to focus on why isn't Nashville the Nashville that we remember? And I think that there are some things that shows the Nashville that you remember that you're kind of losing sight of. And I think the most obvious one is that this is still the best defensive team in the league. And I think that it shouldn't be lost that in all 3 of these games featured a different back 4. So Nashville switched its back 4 up in all 3 games and gave up 1 goal. And that is not something that you will see from basically any other MLS club. That's just not something that happens. And it's especially not something that happens when your best defensive midfielder is out all 3 games. This is not a team that's playing with its best collective defensive unit on the field. And I don't think that you can really talk about Nashville not being the Nashville you remember and just ignore the fact that this is defensively a very, very, very good team. They've given up the least goals in the league. There have been some unbelievable saves from Schwacke, kind of reminding people why he should be in the U.S. men's national team conversation, not just as a member of the pool, but as potentially a starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team. But it's a really, really good defensive team. And the fact that you can swap out center backs and play your third string center back and not demonstrably lose anything defensively, I think is something that, and now, given Mayer and Tagseth kind of had Mayer more so than Tagseth had a little bit to give up in that goal against Orlando, but 1 goal in 3 games speaks for itself. It's an unbelievable defensive unit that Nashville has right now, and I don't think you can talk about Nashville without talking about their defense.
I think one thing that Clay mentioned, and we've mentioned on this show before, is that it's a unit, and it's not just the defenders, right? Because you look at the work rate that the wingers are putting in, you look at the work rate that even Sam Surridge and Hani Mukhtar are putting in, and obviously the midfielders too, but it's a collective thing where everybody is participating in this defensive, sort of event. At the same time, I want to praise the way the defense and Schwacke play with the ball, because I think that's something that goes unnoticed a lot. But there's literally I can't think of many teams that can be this comfortable playing out the back. And it has come close multiple times. Pretty much every game there's 1 or 2 scares, but it hasn't happened yet where they've given up a goal this season. I know it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen, whether it was Schwacke or one of the center backs. We know it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think it's really important that when Orlando were pressing them, in this latest game, they were able to get out of the press really well. That's why when all of a sudden, like midway through the second half, Nashville started giving the ball away, and that's when Andy Nahar was subbed off, you guys remember, because he was, I mean, as the British say, knackered. He was very, very tired, and it was very clear. And he gave the ball away a couple of times, which is very much not Andy Nahar-like. That's why it felt such a weird thing, and that's why it created that like sort of pressure moment that ultimately led to Orlando's goal. And I think that felt so weird and out of place and uncharacteristic from Nashville SC because they've been so solid playing out the back and being able to create from the back and get the ball upwards. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind, how comfortable not just Schwalke is, but the center backs are with the ball. I do think there's a level of that drops when Jason Palacios is not there. And same thing with Reed Baker-Whiting. But ultimately, like Clay said, the proof is in the pudding, and you look at 3 games, 1 goal. That's really not a bad return at all for a team that's struggling with injuries in the back specifically.
Well, and we've talked about it before multiple times that our defense, in a lot of ways, is susceptible to mistakes just based on how high they play up and the way that we play. Yes, Jack Mayer and Eddie Tagsteth were not great on that Orlando goal and tracking back. Let's be honest there. But I've seen Woleji and Palacios do the exact same thing this year on a couple of those goals. I've seen Woleji completely whiff on a ball that he should have cleared just because he was the only one back. It's one of the things where mistakes are going to happen in this defense. But as being the the team with the least goals scored on in MLS, we've had the least mistakes out of all the teams in MLS in the back right now. It's just how this league is. And this is a team that, when BJ Callahan did take over and we finally got the players that were kind of going to be a part of it, we were expecting an offensive powerhouse. We were expecting winning matches 4-3 over here. We didn't think that we'd be getting the, Gary Smith 2.0 reincarnate type of manager where the defense is really good. So we got to shout out the way that the organization is there, the solidity is there, no matter who you put into this mix, because you do A, have an amazing goalkeeper in Brian Schwalke, and B, just a system that incorporates and really encapsulates what this team and the defense actually is.
Yeah, I mean, it is the blinking ad that says you can defend with the ball.
Yep.
That is, this is an example of that because we definitely did not anticipate this team being a better defensive team than what Nashville's calling card was as one of the better defensive teams. I do think that part of that comes from the fact that Nashville has been able to build up its depth at multiple positions. Now there's a big drop off, of course, player to player, but that's what MLS is. Just the nature of the way that the rosters are built, you're going to have a natural drop off, but the fact that there's not a huge drop off, and I don't just mean defensively, I mean everywhere on the field, the fact that there's not a massive drop off when you throw essentially a guy who's was a center back that's now become a backup fullback and Bauer and can play a full game at either fullback spot, or you have a guy who's one of the best center midfielders in the league that's out for an extended amount of time, and you can find ways to play, and you can put Alex Wheel anywhere on the field, basically, except for goalkeeper and center back. It is just, and I'm not convinced that they won't try Alex Wheel at center back at some point in his career. So, it is just one of those things that Nashville has done a very good job at building up and finding a way to still have some type of style that works. And I know that BJ doesn't fully ascribe to this position does this position does that. But I do think Nashville has shown a little bit of more willingness to throw guys in spots that you wouldn't necessarily think would work, and found a way for it to work so that you can get an ugly result in a space that you wouldn't otherwise expect a result. And when you have a team that can do that, when you're in bad form or you're not getting results, you can find a way to get a point here or a win there that you wouldn't have gotten a point in previous years. And that's what you need to weather a storm. It's about confidence, right? Like, you get through a storm, you start to do it, and then you can finally recapture your form, because form is temporary. You get through it, and then you hopefully get back to where you were.
Well, and I think there's a little bit more capturing, and you're able to play a little bit to opposing teams with the depth that we do have. And the example that I have, during Atlanta, Cossum did not have his best game against Atlanta, right? You throw in Alex Mawil, completely changes the tide of that game. Go into Orlando. Alex Mawil did not look great against Orlando. He just kind of looked out of place in a lot of instances. You throw in Cossum, there was a few more opportunities in that mix. Now, you do wish there was a little bit more from the offensive standpoint, but this depth that we do have in these positions does give a little bit more fluidity to the way this team can play and strategize against others. And that's only going to increase now with the players that we are bringing into these solutions and situations.
Hey, Belair, just out of curiosity, when that ball fell to Moyle at the edge of the 6-yard box, just how far out of your seat were you at that point?
No comment.
See, the problem is Moyle was at the edge of the 6-yard box against Orlando, or against Montreal. If he were the edge of the 18-yard box against Montreal.
Yeah.
Yes, and his opposite foot as well. If he was using his left foot instead of his right.
Yeah. That's the problem. Against Montreal, he's too close. He has to be further out against Montreal. That's the problem.
So the things that are working are defensive solidity, Brian Schwacke, depth in multiple positions. Is there anything else specifically to you that you guys want to add to the working right now? And I think something that I want to talk about is just, I don't necessarily see a glaring hole, which I think is I don't think there's a glaring hole in BJ's type of solution. I don't think there's a glaring hole in the players that we do and do not have. There's some holes, but I don't think there's anything that is taking us away from being a title contender. I don't.
That's fair. And I think the other thing I will add to the list of things that we have here listed already in terms of things that are working is just the overall mentality and the overall environment and vibe of the team. Because every time we talk to BJ, we talk to any of the players, maybe the fans are losing their minds over these performances. The players are not. They are very much focused on the process, focused on the way that BJ carries the team, BJ sets them up. And I think they understand that the results are, not something they can control, but what they can control is the input, not the output. And that's something BJ has talked about ever since he took charge. And the fact that that's still the vibe in the dressing room, that's the vibe every game, that's the vibe when we talk to players. I mean, you don't even have to be talking to players. You can see it. You can feel that vibe from videos, from the way they carry themselves on the pitch. So I think seeing maybe the result not go their way or Nashville not having the best of games and still seeing players like Shaq Muhammad, he's not the greatest defender in the world. I think we can say that pretty comfortably. But he worked so hard every single time he's on that pitch. He works so hard. You're still seeing the same thing from Hani Mukhtar. And that's very important for a team fighting for a title. And I think the fact that they haven't lost that despite the results, the last result just not being great, and then the performances just not being there, I think is very important to carry that on and to not be affected by, performances not being great. And it's always easier to fix things when you're winning than when you're losing. And Nashville, believe it or not, despite the last result, they're very much still winning in general terms.
All right. Well, if you time stamped this is now the time where the positive streak ends and we move on to the things that aren't working. Say you are Eeyore and you don't want to even think about the positive things going on and you want to talk about the things that are not working. I think there are things, of course, that are not working, right? Like, while we've only let in one goal as a team, we've only scored one goal in the run of play in 3 matches as well, which is not something that is characteristic for this team. So let's talk about the things that are not working. And Clay, I'll let you start off with the things that you think are not working.
I mean, the most obvious is that the attack is completely isolated. The attack is completely alone. And I'm sure some of that comes from Serge hadn't really played with this group in a while. I mean, he played a little bit right at the end before the break, but he's barely touched the ball in 3 matches. And I'll be honest with you, I halfway thought he was going to miss his penalty when he took it because he barely touched the ball. And so I just, it's hard to watch. I mean, it reminded me of a time when I would have to wake up in the morning and watch Everton play and then go watch Nashville play and just watch the strikers not touch the ball for 2 hours. That's how disconnected it was to watch our center forward, out there. And so I think that's something that stands out the most to me through these 3 matches.
Yeah.
I do think that it was a lot better of the 3 in the Montreal game. I think that the work rate of the attackers is very high. But I think that is also driven by the frustration of trying to get their foot on the ball. And I just, it's hard to see where a goal's coming from in a lot of these games. Now, I will say there's a lot to like from the latter part of the Orlando match after giving up a goal. I think I joked on here after the Atlanta game that I almost wanted to see Atlanta score to kind of see if that would, kick things into high gear for Nashville. And I think that the impetus of needing a goal against Orlando, we saw a different sort of urgency from Nashville, which I don't really think totally exists as a thing, but you definitely felt it watching the game, the end of the Orlando game, but it just really feels disconnected watching them, especially in the last few first halves of games. And so I don't know necessarily the solution because I think a lot of it is driven by depth and a lot of it is driven by not quite having the right chemistry on the field because of all the changes that have been happening. But that is the thing that stands out more than any single thing in these 3 matches is that the attacking group feels completely disconnected.
The biggest thing for me is Hani Mukhtar. Hani Mukhtar is at his best when he's in control of the game. Hani Mukhtar is at his best when he knows on the ball where everybody's around him are, where his surroundings, what it looks like his surroundings, and if there's a transition moment that Nashville can break. Those are the 2 best times you can have Hani Mukhtar, either on the ball, going at the goal, or just got it, in a transition moment. There haven't been many transition moments because teams generally don't throw the kitchen sink at Nashville SC. We saw a little bit from Montreal at the end there, but that was kind of a game that they were, trying to get the draw and goal. In terms of on the ball, the way that he drops back, there is a positive turn. There's a place where Hani Mukhtar dropping back is the most positive thing he can do for Nashville SC. And then it's a fine line where that turns into a very negative thing because nothing else is working. So he's having to drop back really deep and start the attack from really deep. And that's kind of what ends up happening, which leaves Sam Sturridge even further away from Hani Mukhtar when building up the attack. And that's where the conversation about Sam Sturridge happens because now no one is near him, no one is playing with him. And Sam Sturridge is not one of those attackers that just sits in the box and knocks him in. I know his height and his nationality give that away, but he's not that player. He is not. We've seen him over and over again at Nashville SC. He's very involved in the play. He goes to the left wing way more than any attacker or any striker you'll see. He'll press. He'll try to repress. He'll work hard, and that penalty is obviously part of that. So if maybe if it was like a Benteke or something, you can say from one moment he can grab one cross, one header goal, but that's not how Sam Sturridge operates. And Sam Sturridge is a lot more involved in the play or needs to be involved in the play to get the right moment. Every now and again, you'll see him do the fox in the box striker thing, but that's not really his game again. So as Hani Mukhtar gets further away, the right winger is somebody he's barely played any minutes with. The left winger keeps changing and, maybe they have some understanding, but generally, even Mondragal was the guy I thought Sam Sturridge played the best with on that side. Madrigal isn't available. So it does go into the depth thing that Clay was talking about. It also goes into the frustration of the 2 midfielders behind Hani Mukhtar not being able to move the ball forward, which goes again to the depth thing because it's Patrick Yazbek and he's missing. And I don't want this to sound like excuses because Nashville has been able to do things well with the players missing. So I don't want this to sound like, oh, Nashville cannot win unless Patrick Kazbek is there. However, depth is important. Depth keeps you going. Depth keeps you fighting. But depth is there so you don't have to rely on it 100% of the time.
Right.
So when Nashville is having to rely on depth for months and months and months, eventually that's going to crack. And I think that's where Nashville is hitting the limit of how much this depth can take it.
I think people forget that Patrick Yazbek is arguably the most important player on this roster that isn't named Hani Mukhtar or Sam Surridge. And I think you could make an argument he's even more important than those two on the basis of this season. Like, we were talking about him as a player of the season type player in the first couple months of this season, and this is why. Like, these are the games that are why. Nashville was able to keep winning without him on the field, and that has an expiration date. I mean, that eventually you will feel his presence lost, and this is why. This is what happens over time, because in this league, you can only pay a certain amount of people a good amount of money because of the capping, and that's the reason they committed a good amount of money to Patrick Yazbek, and that's the reason that a lot of teams we were thinking he was going to go to the World Cup, and a lot of teams were going to try and kick the tires on Patrick Yazbek coming out of the World Cup, and then he didn't go to the World Cup because he got hurt. And I think that the key for this Nashville team being a Supporters Shield team, which we all think Nashville can be, if they're going to be a Supporters Shield team, it behooves them to have Patrick Yazbek on the field, because I think he has to be part of the equation for them to be that team.
Well, and I don't even necessarily think it's just Patrick Yazbek. I think it's everybody that's injured in a continued fluidity. So what I mean, for example, what is the difference between Jesse Palacios and Jack Mayer being on the pitch? Jack Mayer absolutely played fantastic as a center back and did what he needed to do, but that ball is being exactly one higher up with Palacios as a defender, because he's quicker and able to get back quicker. So we're winning that ball higher up. That gives the ability for Hani Mukhtar to not need to drop back farther to get the ball. Same thing with Yazbek, right? Able to win the ball more in the midfield. Hani Mukhtar is able to stay up higher. Sam Surridge is not as isolated as it needs to be. It's weird how Andy Nahar is also running into that midfield half the time as well. When you don't have him and Reed Baker waiting on the other side, if you don't have that, all fluidity stops to work. So it's not one of the things where I don't think these players can't not do it. I just think it's one of the things where Clay, you're absolutely right, where it's a team that hasn't played together in a very long time, and Sam Surridge hasn't played with these guys in a very long time. It's kind of hard to stay in that position going forward.
And I think, and not only that, I think Yazbek also unlocks better versions of Corcoran and Tagseth.
Yes.
Like, Tagseth doesn't become as necessary.
When you're two midfielders, when you're starting midfielders, Acosta and Eddie Tagseth are defenders.
I don't like he's somebody who lifts them all, and I don't want to put it all on him because it's not all on him, but that because one guy can change a team so much, but that's not the only reason that Nashville's playing that. That's not the only reason that things are disconnected, but that is a key cog, and if he comes back into the mix in the next few weeks, as we expect him to, then this team is necessarily going to look different, because that is a huge piece that hasn't been playing.
This is the biggest sign. I think this conversation is the biggest sign that Nashville has improved from where it was last season to this season, because we just spent 5 minutes talking about depth and injuries and all that, and we didn't mention a DP name who has multiple like over 10.
Right. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And that is Christian Espinoza, because Christian Espinoza
100%.
would change games for Nashville SC and has changed games for Nashville SC. So I think this is the biggest. I know this isn't the sort of negative portion of this, but the fact that we went through that whole spiel and all of it was valid, but Christian Espinoza is very, very important for this team as well. Right. And him not being able to play those 3 games, I think, left a mark as well. And shout out to Shaq Muhammad, because he was able to score a goal, is able to get himself in good positions. If his finishing was as well as Christian Espinoza, Nashville SC would have probably scored a couple more goals. But at the end of the day, I think all these problems are somewhat related, because all these injuries came in at the same time. And I think the biggest disappointment for the fans has been that they thought coming off the break was going to be when the injuries will go away, but rather more injuries were picked up. And that's a very unfortunate thing, and it's unlucky. I don't think it's anything more than that.
Well, I think that really kind of answers the question we were going to end on, whether this is a concern or a mirage, doesn't it?
Until this happens, for like a sustainable long time, like months and months, I'm not really gonna put much stock into the concern portion.
And that's exactly, I mean, I know in Valera, I think you're right in being like, look, I know this is supposed to be the negative time of it, but like there's a lot of, if there was a doom and gloom situation, we're going to be honest with you of like, oh no, this is something that we truly have to worry about in a lot of ways. And I still think there are a few concerns. If you go another match or two, especially during this time of this is the easier side of the schedule, I would say, before the League's Cup kind of happens, where if you're going through this in a lot of instances, there's going to be some concerns. But I think a week break of us, just a full week, of being able to play with each other, some of these players getting hopefully healthier, going into DC United, I think you're going to see a different team on Saturday than you've had the past week, because at the current moment, you're just kind of holding on.
I think that the floor for this team, even right now, is being one of the favorites for MLS Cup. I think the ceiling is being one of the favorites for the other two trophies as well.
Yes.
Now that could change, but on the basis of what we know right now, on the basis of the things that have occurred. Now, if the injuries continue, Supporter Shield is probably out the window. League's Cup, maybe they aren't as all into it. But right now, that's where they are.
Yep.
So
we're not even
the expectations haven't fully changed on the basis of 3 games.
And we haven't even fully seen what the new players can come in and do. You know what I mean?
And to go to Steven's point just a little deeper, I think it's important to note that if you were to have a dip in form, which again, this whole conversation is from one loss, just that's it, not even a draw anywhere else.
This is our second loss the entire season.
If Nashville was to go to DC and draw or lose or whatever happens, they don't pick up the win. If you were going to have a dip in form, it is much better to have it now than close to the playoffs. And I think that's what Steven was alluding to earlier. Nashville ended last season. The last 6 games, they had 1 win in MLS. Now, obviously, there was the Open Cup. Very big conversation, very different conversation. But I think it's important that they go into the playoffs, hopefully picking up some of this then. The closer you are to the playoffs, the closer you get your momentum, the better. I think it is based on what Clay has been saying for the last full week. It is impossible, not nearly impossible. It is impossible to have a season where all you do is win and all of it is peaks. That's just not going to happen. And if you're going to have some valleys, it might as well be now rather than a month or two from now.
And if they don't win in DC, it's obviously Steven's fault.
100%.
And I will take that on the chin, but I'm not going to have to, because we're going to be perfectly fine. And we'll talk about that. We'll preview that. We have some other MLS news to talk about. There's a very interesting week and weekend of matches, to say the least. We're going to talk about those and predict DC United, and we're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, check out 615soccer.com. Spell it out in your browser. Be a part of what we got going on there, as well as pharmasoccer.com for all of your merchandise needs. Do that. There's some good stuff on there. So, pharmasoccer.com. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, we had a big week of MLS matches happening over the week. If we want to talk about downfalls of form going on at the current moment, just think Nashville's bad. Let's take a look at how Seattle's doing at the current moment in terms of results lately. Any other MLS matches that were fun, exciting to you? Anything that you want to talk about? Running into the tunnels and fighting people? Can we get a rivalry like that at any point ever? I don't know. What do you guys got MLS-wise?
I have thoughts.
About what? You did say you had thoughts, but you didn't say specifically about it.
This is a rarity, guys. I think it's time for me to Valera it out.
Oh, my. Wow. Okay. Wow. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Valera it Out. This is a podcast and a podcast. This is featuring a special guest, Clay Trainum. Clay, welcome to Valera it Out.
I haven't had a Valerian out in 2 years. I just wanted people to know. You too.
I don't know. I don't know if it's been 2 years.
That's not true.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that's true
At
at
least a
all.
year.
I don't think that's true, actually.
But anyway, I don't care. It's a bit. At this point, it's a bit. So pro athletes can deal with you taunting them. Like, I don't know how you need to be. You're allowed to troll athletes. Like, that's what opposing fans do. I understand that it's a little bit weird when national teams come into the mix. So in Portland over the weekend, Portland fans were getting annoyed with Diego Luna, as they would, their conference rivals, and they chanted U.S. reject at Diego Luna because Diego Luna was left off the U.S. squad. Now, is that a weird chant considering that Portland has American players who also didn't make the U.S. squad? Yes, that's a weird chant because there are also a lot of other people on the field that also didn't make the U.S. squad. Is that a chant that has been chanted at U.S. players that were the last ones cut from a roster for 30 years in MLS? That is also true. Like, it's not a big deal, and I don't know why it blew up. And it's so strange to me that this became the discourse over the weekend among U.S. men's national or people with U.S. MNT in their Twitter handles, because they simultaneously want athletes to be held accountable, but then get mad when they get stick, because it doesn't work both ways. Like, you can't boo Josie and Michael Bradley for not making the World Cup, but then get mad at athletes feeling pressure when they don't make the roster. Like, this is part of the gig. And athletes from other fans are going to be nice to you. That's just the way that works. Like, as long as they're within the lines, I don't really see what the point is. Like, there's obviously
and they can handle it too. Like, do you think Diego Luna is going to be affected by this on the? No way.
Care. Like,
he's still going to work just as hard to make
the thing that
the next roster.
And 20 years ago, like I said, it's not nice and it's kind of stupid, but like 20 years ago, I was chanting that at Connor Casey as at a Chicago Fire game. It doesn't have any deep meaning. It's as much MLS heritage as chanting "shoot him like a horse" at an injured player, which is much more problematic than anything else. But this is stuff that has been happening in this league for ages, and it is so like kid stuff that it's annoying. And we've just to drive this point home, right? So Matt Freese was booed.
Yes.
For making a mistake with the national team, which honestly feels much meaner to me than the U.S. reject. And they asked him about this, about getting booed in Columbus. And this is what he said. This is a direct quote from Matt Freese. "I don't mind getting booed. I'm from Philadelphia. Anything they're saying to me on the field, I can guarantee you I've said worse at Eagles games. So I'm fine with it." Because athletes are pro athletes. They get it. Stop babying them. Anyway, I'm done.
I mean, I think about this all the time. We've told the story multiple times where Valera had to yell at some player's mother because she started yelling at him.
No, she started it. Yeah,
she started it. I mean, she started it. But one of the things that she always brought up, it's just like, why don't yell at him? My kid played for the Manchester United Academy, where Valera's response was, yes, if he played for the Manchester United Academy, he has gotten 50 things times worse than anything that I have said or we have said. It just happens.
There's a very clear line, and there are stories in Europe every year of people crossing the line. There's stories in the U.S. of people crossing the line. There are very clear lines, but like, reading any more into that other than
U.S. reject is not
shooting
the line.
Soccer fans chanting at soccer player about soccer player's career is just a little bit of a reach, guys. Like, let's settle down.
Did anybody boo Tim Ream? I don't know, but it's just one of those things. I'm with you, Clay.
I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it broke through the discourse. I'm like, they did this to John Harkes in 1998. Like, I mean,
of course it broke through the discourse because it's the U.S. soccer fan discourse, because of course it's going to. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else interesting? Speaking of bad runs of form, San Diego. Not San Diego, San Jose. What's going on with your boys there, Valer? What's going on with Bruce Arena?
What's going on with my boys there? Sorry, Sorry, that's I've never been.
Speaking of
I've never
U.S.
been
rejects,
called.
Bruce Arena.
Yeah. I think their run was way more overshooting what they actually are capable of than anyone else around them. And I think we were saying that not last season, but before the break. I think they'll still be fine, like top 4 maybe in the West, which is a great improvement on what they had
I
beforehand.
think a lot of people were saying that, but I think, Valère, you were doing victory laps.
I was on Victor last because he was able to get those performances with those players.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Valère was tarps off in the San Jose supporter section.
Valère fully had his shirt off, yelling
Wando,
outside the club. That's how.
No, I do want to talk about LAFC for a second because they have come back with a strong 3 wins coming back. They won their last game before going into the World Cup break, but before that they lost 3 games. So it's kind of one of those, Nashville SC beating them, of course. So it's kind of coming back. Son is scoring all of a sudden. Stuff like that is coming back. I want to say this game coming up for them against Vancouver is going to be really fun to watch. Vancouver hasn't been the best since coming back, but it's still Vancouver, and they have great players and great team and what is the word? Foundation and spine. So I'm looking forward to that game in the West.
Another fun story from the weekend that got lost in the fold of the fight from the Cincy Columbus game. Just a fun story. Columbus trying to sign Brenner.
Yeah, that's
and then Brenner saying no, which is such a non-MLS move from Brenner.
It's true.
Like, hey, like shout out to Brenner for the I'm just saying I like it. I like more players being like, I would never play for them. No thanks.
That's
well, I think we need to take a look at last place Philadelphia. Oh wait, no, sorry, it is not Philadelphia anymore. Who is in the Wooden Spoon? Who's? Oh wow. How is Tata Martino not fired yet? I do not care the history of this team. How is he not fired? I don't get it.
They're actually signing players for him instead of firing him, which, look, if this pans out for them, it'll be like the most genius, like they stuck by their roots, all that, blah, blah, blah. But man, this could be another miserable year or 2 in the future for Atlanta United fans. Like you think it's bad now if they spend even more money. By the way, this is upon reports for Darwin Nunez being linked with Atlanta, as well as Mbolo, who just played for Switzerland in the World Cup. So these are very high profile players. So we'll see.
I will say now, given I think that Darwin Nunez would score like absolute bucket loads of goals in MLS, but I did laugh at the idea. It's like, Latte Loft can't finish in MLS. Let's go get Darwin Nunez, renowned finisher.
Yeah,
really good. Doesn't miss at all. That's for sure. No, it's this league is so much fun and so interesting sometimes. Like you're starting to see some of these interim coaches and newer coaches actually start to. I mean, Portland being one, wheels are starting to turn a little bit. Philadelphia being another one. These interim coaches are kind of coming to play. It's a fun league. I appreciate it. And one of those other teams that's actually, had a good week is one that we play in DC United. DC United has had a pretty decent week, getting a win against Toronto on Saturday and then a draw on Wednesday. So I say in DC United standards, that's pretty good. And we play them in DC. So what are we expecting from this match?
I will say this. Valère did a comparison of MLS clubs to Premier League clubs the other day, and I very much appreciated the comparison he gave to DC United.
Which was
what did he give?
Everton. They have my exact words were they have the history, but at this point they're just making up the numbers. Sorry, Clay. I have compared them also. I've compared DC United to Brazil as well for the exact same reason. Go watch those videos if you haven't. I had a great fun. I made 3 of them total, and people are still in my comments like, tell me about St. Louis City. And I'm like, I don't work for you. I can't just like go to work for you right now. Cause like I have to think about these things. You know what I mean? And then I just gave up at one point. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it was like Columbus Crew, like 2 or 3 people asked me about Columbus Crew. I was like, Crew Alexandra. I don't know. They sound the same. Just leave me alone. I don't know what to do anymore.
I know. I thought commenting was going to be beneficial for you, but it's like you do it, like you scheduling things for me, being like, "Oh, this will be fun to add a comment," and then you realize you're actually putting anxiety on the other person for doing.
It's fine. I appreciate it. Anybody who commented and liked, but
as Valer discussed, it's hard work being an influencer.
Yes, it is.
I know.
It's very hard work being an influencer for Valer.
Can we talk about DC for a minute? By the way, these 2 teams, DC and Nashville, played in May, right before Nashville played their Champions League, Champions Cup semifinal. And it was a 2-2 draw at Geodis Park where DC went 2-0 up. I'm telling people this because I don't think anybody remembers this game. So
that's why I brought it up in the first.
I really want people to remember this because DC went up 2-0. Then Madrigal scored twice, including the tying goal in the 89th minute. Once DC went down to 10 men,
and had an argument. There was an argument for a penalty in added time.
What was that? Sorry.
There was an argument for a penalty, a pretty good one, in added time, which is why I don't feel bad about the penalty in the Montreal game.
The red card that DC received was questionable at best, but it is what it is. These things happen all throughout, so I wouldn't worry about it. But and these 2 teams before that played obviously in the Open Cup as well, where DC also went 2-0 up at Geodis Park. Really, just something that DC have on this team. So just keep that in mind as this game goes. To be fair, DC has never played that well against Nashville in DC. So, but recently at least, sorry. Yeah. So, but they're a team kind of figuring out their system and their identity a little bit now under their new manager. And I think for they're in the playoff position. Surprisingly, they're in the very last playoff position. But they have, they seem to have more of an idea of how they want to play than they did last season, which is a big plus, of course. And I'm trying to remember the manager name, Rene Weiler, right? Rene Weiler. He's brought in some stability. And if you remember from that Nashville game, you probably don't remember much. But when they want to bunker down and play defensively, they've generally been okay at it. And then all of a sudden, when the sky starts falling and there are goals from both sides, it just kind of becomes an open game for them if it needed to be. But they have, gotten a lot of draws, been able to kind of close out games much better. So all that to be said, they still have Ty Baribo, who is one of the best goal scorers in MLS. He just scored against Toronto to get that win. So, it's not as easy as it seems on the table, I think, especially going away to DC, where I understand the weather isn't great, Steven. I don't know. Somebody told me that, but I don't really know.
Over the weekend, it was really nice. So hopefully we get that coming up this weekend. I haven't looked, but we discussed there's always away matches are always tough going on. The one thing I will say that Nashville does have the benefit of is that this is probably going to be one of the bigger away fan forces that we've had so far in a space. There will be a lot of fans there from Nashville in DC coming up this weekend. I'm very excited for that. We'll make sure to document all of it just so you do have just all the information. But yeah, it's always tough. We've seen, I don't know if I've ever seen this team win actually in DC. I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. Maybe once, but it's not the easiest place to go and win, especially in Nashville being in the form that they're in. And let's predict it. I'll let Clay start with the What?
Before we predict, there is a brother of a Nashville SC player who currently plays in DC. Without looking, do you guys know who it is?
Brother, a current Nashville SC player?
No. Former Nashville SC player.
Oh, Nealis.
All right. Look at you with the knowledge. Sean Nealis plays for DC now.
I mean, Nealis is a good bet, generally speaking, because Nealis pops up a few times each year, and I'm just like, oh, he used to play for NSC.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the brother, but Sean.
Well, and I always say it's S because it always comes up as S Nealis as well. Where I'm like, oh yeah, it's it. Oh wait, no, it's not him. Never mind, it's the other one. Yeah. Well, thank you, Valair, for that trivia.
By the way, DC United did win at Audi Field in 2024. DC United's only 2 wins in the series were both in 2024, and they scored a combined 6 goals in those 2 games. And in the other games, they have combined scored 2, 4, 8 goals across the rest of the. And Nashville, just for comparison's sake, has 2 different 5-goal games across the rest of that.
Well, let's. How's it going to go then, Clay? Let's wrap it up.
I think Nashville wins 3-1. I think that Nashville is. I said it. I thought it was going to happen last week. I think Nashville is going to break out of a funk, and I thought it was going to happen last week against Montreal, and I think it still could have happened. I think if Alex Moyle buries that chance early, that whole game breaks out differently, and I just think it's got to happen at some point. And so I'm going to go with that being the game against DC on Saturday. And if you want to tell me more about how wrong I am or how right I am, at Clay Lussell on Instagram and on Twitter, and also check out Nashville Soccer Archive. If you have anything you want to donate to Nashville Soccer Archive, especially physical items, please let me know. We have a physical archive at Vanderbilt University Special Collections. It is growing, and there's cool stuff in there. Please let me know, and we'll add your stuff to the collection. Thank you.
At Valair Shavilla, anywhere you are on social media, please make sure you follow me. It's going to be 2-0 for Nashville SC, and it's going to be back to business. Industrial win, get a couple goals. Sam Surge will get one. Hani Mukhtar will get the other. And that will send Nashville into the Leagues Cup, where they're going to win the whole thing. I don't know. Do we need to do all these predictions? Anyway,
No,
win.
we don't. I literally just wanted the one prediction. We're going to be back next week to talk about, well, I don't want to talk about the Leagues Cup, but we're going to be back next week to talk about it. At PHStevenHD on all of my stuff and social media as well. I'm with Clay. Well, I'm going to keep being with Clay until it happens. I'm also going to predict a goal from Saad until he actually plays. So I'm just going to predict it happening on Saturday. Is that going to happen? No, but I'm going to predict it. 2 goals from Hani, 1 goal from Eddie Tagseth for a 4-0 win for Nashville.
Jeez.
Yeah, at Audi, and we're not going to rush the field, but we're going to run down to the bleachers, and I don't have to get in trouble because I'm not the president of a supporters group anymore, so I don't have to worry about it.
If you try to run down from the supporters section at Audi Field, you are going to trip, you are going to fall, and you are going to die, Stephen.
It is true. It is like the Belgian cheese rolled down the wheel and all the people fall down.
The upper deck at Assembly Hall in Bloomington, Indiana. It is so steep.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. We truly do appreciate it. As always, I'm excited to see everybody that does come to DC. Valair, excited to hang out with you as well. We'll be back, of course, next week still to cover that match and just talk about anything else. Thank you so much again for listening to Pharmaceutical Soccer. We will see you on the other side.